Limbus company has finally received its last Nursefather and Apprentice duo in the latest update, and this time around we got none other than Rodion and Heathcliff. These two identities are a brand new addition to the Tremor and Burn archetypes. They bring back Scorch, which was first added with the last thumb banner, and they've got insane style, insane flair, all while putting up insane damage. But just how good are these two identities? Which teams should you build around them? Should you use Heathcliff at all? And is Rodion really all that evil for saying that word? All of these questions and more will be answered today, as we will begin with a short and concise kit review of both identities, and that will be followed by us looking at their performance in their signature team compositions. But before we start, allow me to remind you that most of my viewers are not subscribed, so if you find yourself coming back to my videos or end up enjoying this one, consider subscribing. It takes just 1 second and helps me out a lot. Now let's get to the thumbs. We'll start with Rodion's kit, and then we'll rapid fire through Heathcliff right after. Rodion has average health, an average speed roll, and a neutral defense level. Her sin affinity spread consists of Pride, Lust, Sloth, and Wrath, with a Pride defense and a Gloom evade. Rodion's skills gain power from Poise, as well as the sum of Burn and Tremor on the target. Her skill 1 is Colpi di Taglio. It rolls up to 16, makes Rodion lose eye stacks on Clash win, and deals bonus damage based on stacks lost. It inflicts 1 of Burn, Burn count, Tremor, and Tremor count. Rodion also has a skill 1 too. This one's called Cizionatura di Coniglio, and it has 1 more power, is Lust, and inflicts 1 Burn count and 2 Tremor count instead, bursting Tremor once afterwards. Her skill 2 rolls up to 23, interacts with Eye of Precognition in the same way, and its coins inflict 2 Burn, as well as 3 Tremor and 1 Tremor count, before bursting said Tremor once. Rodion also has a skill 2 too, which is used when she is out of ammo. It rolls up to 24 in overheat and also interacts with the eye. On use, it gives Rodion 4 poise count, and the first coin gives 5 poise. The coins also inflict 2 burn, 2 tremor, and 2 tremor count, while converting tremor on the enemy into scorch and bursting tremor once, with an extra burst at 10 or more tremor. Rodion's skill 3 is Cizionatura di Elefante. It rolls up to 29, and, before attack, it makes Rodion lose up to 10 stacks of Eye of Precognition. The first 3 coins of the skill spend 1 acceleration round each to inflict 2 burn and tremor, 2 burn and tremor count, and convert tremor on the enemy into scorch. The last coin bursts tremor, and bursts it 1 more time for every round spent, up to 2 for a total of 3. And, of course, the skill 3 too, Disposal. This one has 5 coins and rolls up to 40. It deals 50% more damage to enemies under half health, gains coin power when attacking the game target and when Rodion has bullets left. And, if it kills the game target, Disposal returns to Rodion's hand, but that can't happen twice in a row. Also, the skill triggers a reload on kill. The first 4 coins inflict 4 Tremor and Burn, as well as 3 Tremor and Burn count, while converting Tremor on the enemy into Scorch. The last coin consumes up to 5 acceleration rounds, and deals more damage for every round consumed. Then it triggers Tremor Burst, and re-triggers it again up to 3 more times based on rounds spent, for a total of 4. As for Rodion's defensive skill, she has Fuck Off, her clashable counter. This skill rolls up to 12, makes Rodion lose 4 eye stacks on use, and reloads her up to 5 bullets if Rodion is under 5. The coins of the skill inflict 2 burn and tremor. As for her second defense, Rodion has Precognition, a max 18 power Gloom evade that gains power from eye stacks, and triggers a skill 1-2 against the attacker if Rodion successfully evaded all the incoming coins. The skill gives 3 poise count on use and 2 poise on evade, up to twice per turn. It also makes Rodion heal 3 SP per evade and lose 2 eye stacks at skill end. Moving on to Rodion's passives, she has 4. The Eye of Precognition gives Rodion 30 stacks of eye at encountered start, and converts them into overheat when they drop to 0. While Rodion has her eye, she gains accelerating future with every clash, and when attacked by an unopposed attack, unbreakable coin, or a clash loss, she uses her evade against that skill. Rodion also loses 1 eye with every clash, and activating her evade, it's 3 stacks if it's unbreakable coins or an unopposed attack, and 5 stacks if it's a clash loss. When she drops to 0, Rodion reloads and gets disposal in her hand, with the top slot being prioritized. Rodion also gets Shin when dropping to 0 eye stacks, getting staggered, or when Heathcliff dies. Additionally, when Rodion gets staggered due to damage, she unstaggers herself at turn end. The Shame of Familia Bognatelli is her second passive, and this one gives Rodion 2 poise and poise count for every acceleration round she spends. When she's out of ammo, the coins that spend ammo are not cancelled. Despite the poise, Rodion is only counted as a Tremor and Burn identity. Also, at turn start, if she has disposal, Rodion inflicts game target on the unit she attacked last, or the lowest HP enemy if that other unit cannot be targeted. Her third passive is Saikai, and this one gives Blade Roshu the usual buffs when she kills Rodion, while also providing her with a unique effect. 1 defense skill coin power up, and 10% more damage against enemies with shields. Rodion's fourth and final passive is La Spada di Palermo, and it requires 3 Wrath and 2 Sloth owned to be used. This passive gives Rodion skill 3, 1 coin power and 25% more damage when she has ammo. It also makes her base skills deal bonus damage based on burn on the enemy, with the effect tripled against enemies with shields. As for her support passive, Rodion gets Weaklings, not worth shit. It requires 3 Wrath Resonance, and it makes the fastest ally gain 2 offense level up next turn when bursting Tremor. If the ally is from the thumb, they also get 1 haste. Before we look at Heathcliff, let's also take a quick glance at Rodion's unique effects. Eye of Precognition has a max stack of 30, and can lose up to 10 stacks per turn. In Overheat, it gains 10 stacks at turn start, gives 3 offense levels but takes away 3 defense levels, and converts back into Eye of Precognition at 30 stacks. Accelerating Round is a simple ammo type that stacks to 10. Game Target is an effect that makes enemies take 15% more damage from Rodion's base skills. Accelerating Future stacks up to 5, makes Rodion deal 3% more damage per stack, gives 1 clash power for every 2 stacks, and at 5 stacks, it grants Rodion 1 base skill coin power, and it expires at skill end. Shin Disgrace gives Rodion 1 speed, and makes her inflict 1 more Tremor and Burn, Potency and Count with base skills, while also making her deal 3% more damage for every 3 poise potency. This was one long kit, so for the simpler Lucy or Heathcliff, we will be faster. He has higher HP than Rodion, the same speed and a plus 3 defense level. His sins are Lust, Sloth and Wrath, with a Wrath defense and a Gloom assist defense. His skill 1 is an Omega basic to burn 1 Tremor Lust skill. His skill 2 has some potency and count, with some extra Tremor count on Clash Win, and it has 1 conditional burst. Scales both its damage and its infliction with the dual escalates, and converts Tremor to Scorch before bursting it thrice, although under a condition. Skill 3-2 is used over Skill 3 if the enemy has 5 dual stacks, and it gains weight based on maturing textbook. At attack end, that skill consumes all dual stacks and gives maturing textbook. It also bursts 3 times unconditionally. Heathcliff's defense is a clashable counter with a lot of bonus damage potential, and his assist defense is a clashable guard that heals SP for the ally he's protecting while giving Heathcliff protection. His first passive is Duello Disperato, and it inflicts 1 stack of the duel escalates on the enemy that Heathcliff targets with his base skill, inflicting 1 more if there was a clash between him and the enemy. When an enemy with the duel escalates dies to Heathcliff's base skill, Heathcliff gains 1 maturing textbook. Also, he heals SP at clash start against targets with duel stacks based on said duel stacks. His second passive makes Heathcliff follow up Rodion's attacks with his skill 1, once per turn, and when Rodion is overheated, Heathcliff gets 1 stack of assist defense at combat start instead, with the assist only working on Rodion. Heathcliff's Psykai provides Roshu with the ability to burst Tremor up to 2 times per turn, while inflicting 2 Tremor beforehand. His last passive requires 2 Lust and Sloth, and it gives Heathcliff a lot of scaling offensive buffs based on the sum of maturing textbook on himself and duel on the enemy, while also reducing damage taken by him. As for Heathcliff's support passive, it makes the fastest ally inflict 1 burn count on Clash Win, with the effect prioritizing Thumb Identities and making them inflict Tremor count as well, with the infliction doubled when up against only 1 enemy. As for his unique effects, maturing textbook stacks up to 3, and Heathcliff can gain up to 2 per turn. The first stack increases base skill damage by 15%, and the following stacks increase it by 5 or more. The duel escalates stacks up to 5, and Heathcliff can gain up to 3 per turn. And Severed Tendon reduces enemy base power by 1 and expires at turn end. Finally, we're done with the kits. And boy oh boy was that a lot of reading. Now we can actually look at Valencina Rodion and Lucio Heathcliff in combat. First of all, the 2 units possess the Burn and Tremor keywords, with a lot of synergy surrounding those effects. As such, those 2 teams are the ones we will be using to examine the strength of the new identities. And by burn, I do mean the House of Spiders, as that composition essentially only utilizes burn identities, and burn is used as the secondary damage source as well. First of all, Rodion. What does she do and what does she want to accomplish? Rodion's base kit resembles that of the older Thumb identities. A burstless skill 1 that sets up effect infliction, a 1 burst skill 2 that is tremor positive with shin up, and a triple burst skill 3 with good damage as well as burn and tremor count neutrality. Unlike the other thumbs, however, Rodion inflicts tremor and burn count with her skill 1 as well, on top of potency. This makes her overall better at keeping up the stack than the rest of her faction, and that's a pretty good thing for an identity that is built to sustain effect stacks in a team that doesn't necessarily have stellar effect infliction. This, however, is only the beginning, as the real meat of this identity revolves around Valencina's Eye. Eye of Precognition begins at 30, and the Precognition skill is the strongest at this point. When Valencina drops to 0 stacks, she gets guaranteed Shin and Disposal, which is her biggest nuke, so you want to drop stacks fast. With a cap of 10 stacks per turn, Rodion can Disposal on turn 4 at the earliest, which is actually decently fast for a skill of Disposal's caliber. But how do you get there in time? Well, the truth of the matter is that base skill usage is a bit inconsistent here, or more accurately, it's enemy dependent. Every turn you want to make sure you activate Precognition, which you can do by either letting Rodion get attacked or having her clash against a skill with unbreakable coins. Proccing Precognition with either of those effects uses up 3 stacks, and 2 more are lost at skill end, for a total of 5. The other 5 you have to lose using the skills that you have on the dashboard. Rodion's skill 1 only has 2 coins, so it will eat 2 stacks on Clash Win to amp its damage. To get to 5 stacks, you will need to clash a 3 coin skill, which is not something all bosses have readily available. You can also bank on dice, but that is the peak of inconsistency. Skill 2 is a lot more promising, as it can eat 3 stacks naturally, so you want to seek out a 2-coin enemy skill to lock in your 5 stacks per turn. And skill 3 is your Bastion against bad luck, as this one directly consumes up to 10 stacks, allowing you to get rid of all of your eyes without even using precognition. But what if the boss only has single coin skills? Do you just have to forget about the turn for disposal? Well, no, actually. This is where Rodion's counter comes in. Fuck off makes Rodion lose 4 stacks on use, meaning that as long as you activate the skill, which will always be via a clash, you are guaranteed to lose 5 stacks from it, and with a precognition proc, that goes to an easy 10 every single time. Of course though, while the counter does help a lot, precog still remains enemy dependent. If the enemy has no unbreakables, you're forced to bank on lucky targeting to aim for your Rodion, and certain bosses, like Rodion, absolutely refuse to help you out here. Now, in the most relevant encounters for Rodion as of today, mainly section 4 of RR6, the bosses are kind enough to provide her with the red coins and targeting that she requires. But in the future, things might sometimes not go her way. Once you get to 0 stacks, whether it takes 3 turns or not, you will be given disposal. First of all, I want to say that I adore the design of putting disposal in the top slot. This allows you to wait for the most opportune moment to strike, while setting up using an ego skill, such as 4th Match Flame Rodion, for its 3 Wrath fragility. As for disposal itself, the skill does around 480 damage when hitting an enemy under half HP. This is a huge amount of damage, but it's not something record-breaking. Both Furioso and Complete and Total Extermination can put up more than this into a single target. However, Rodion has a trick up her sleeve: Scorch Bursts. With the help of Burn and Tremor on the enemy, Rodion can further increase her disposal value by inflicting extra wrath damage with her 4 Tremor bursts into Scorch. This means that while Rodion starts off from behind, the value of her nuke skill grows as long as the enemy remains on field and does not cleanse debuffs, allowing the stack to grow. In fights with multiple waves, you won't see disposal outvalue Furioso, but it's certainly at least possible. Disposal's on-kill conditionals are also something that can be interesting, but they don't seem to come up often in serious encounters, being mainly reserved for fodder fights, where Rodion can dominate some poor souls by slaying game target after game target. As for the rest of Rodion's kit, let me just say I adore it in its entirety. First of all, special shoutout to Accelerating Future for being a goated flavor effect. Extra damage per clash is, again, very enemy dependent, but hitting a skill 3 into an enemy 5-coiner is genuinely dopamine overload when you get the extra coin power. Sessionatura di Coniglio is also a pretty cool skill. It procs when Rodion evades all enemy attacks with precognition, and if you have early Shin, it's actually a source of free burn and tremor count on the enemy, despite it bursting tremor once. It's also a free point of lust that you can get 3 turns in a row, despite Rodion literally not having lust in her base kit. The same goes for precognition, but I'll talk about that more when going over Tremor. Rodion's skill 2-2 though is kinda funny. See, this skill replaces her normal skill 2 when Rodion runs out of ammo, and it actually has a pretty cool gimmick. It converts Tremor into Scorch despite not being a skill 3. The point here is that you lose ammo in really long fights, and those tend to consist of multiple waves. Adding 2 more Scorch conversions onto Valencina's rotation allows you to have great Scorch upkeep deep into the fight, and on top of that, the skill has good inflictions across the board and even gives poise now that Rodion is out of ammo to use to fuel her poise stack. So what's so funny about this skill? Well, it's the fact that Rodion is really rich. Or at least she used to be, so she has a lot of ammo. She begins the fight with 10, gets a full reload when overheating, and then gets to reload up to 5 with her counter once she drops below 5. And this is even before considering the disposal on-kill reload. Basically, Rodion has ammo for days, and if you want to use it up in the first place, you want to use basic skill 2s, so you have to be insanely deep in a fight to even come across a situation where Sezionatura di Cervo would be needed and available at the same time. That's about it for the basics of Thumb Rodion. She is basically Thumb Merceau, but with better numbers, better infliction, longer uptime, free gloom and last generation, more scorch conversions and an entire reusable disposal. And all she loses access to compared to him is a one-time use AoE. And also I guess she has the unique disadvantage of making you actually look at the screen, because you really want to activate that precognition whenever possible. Now, what about Heathcliff? Well, he also works on a general Thumb blueprint, with a 1 burst skill 2, 3 burst skill 3 and a weak skill 1. However, he also has a bonus gimmick akin to that of the Sank Association. Attacking an enemy builds up, the duel escalates, with a max of 3 stacks gained per turn. To get to that number, you want to slot Heathcliff alongside Rodion and clash using his skills. The clash will give you 2 stacks, and the follow-up skill will give you the third. In just 2 turns, Heathcliff can finish his setup, allowing him to use his skill tree too. That skill scales well with maturing textbook, and is the only non-kill source of that effect. As Heathcliff's skill tree 2 is an empowered skill 3 though, you really don't want to be stuck relying on it for maturing textbook, as you only get a copy every 6 turns, and you only get 1 stack per use. The other way to get the effect is killing enemies with dual stacks. Unfortunately, Heathcliff needs to land the killing blow to scale, and that can be difficult in pretty much all types of combat short of EXP excavations. This leads to Heathcliff's ramp taking a while to truly come online. And the payoff... well, let's just say it's no Valencina Rodion. Or even Thumb Merceau. Another issue he faces is the fact that the duel escalates is a debuff that will be lost on wave change, and needs to be reapplied again and again to get back to Heathcliff's max power. Overall, his performance is slightly below that of Thumb Merceau when you compare their peaks, but Heathcliff really struggles to reach and keep up that peak due to how slow guaranteed textbook stacking is, and due to duel being a debuff instead of a buff. With the basics of both identities out of the way, let's talk about team building. And we'll begin with the crown jewel of Season 7, the House of Spiders team. This composition revolves around the core of triple slot Blade Ryoshu and Rien Yi-sang, and it prides itself on long fight physical wrath damage, and it uses burn as a small secondary source of damage and conditionals. With a description like that, it should be painfully obvious that Rodion is a fantastic addition to the team. She can output /wrath damage, putting her in line with Ryoshu and Yi-sang, while also inflicting burn count to make sure that Ryoshu can capitalize on activations consistently. Rodion ends up becoming the third strongest identity on the House of Spiders composition, and Disposal is a worthy addition to the team's large nuke turns. Rodion, as a Sinner, also provides 4th Match Flame, an ego that inflicts free wrath fragility, further increasing the damage output of the composition. The addition of the Thumb IDs also makes it possible to 4-slot Ryoshu, but that is hardly a good idea. Giving up Furioso and Disposal, as well as 2 slots worth of Nursefather kits, for 2 extra coins and 1 more slot on Ryoshu, is simply not a worthwhile trade, not even mentioning the fact that it lengthens the setup process, thus putting you behind in the first place. On top of that, Rodion's Saikai is honestly not that good, with a 10% damage buff that only activates against shields. Personally, I think it's an okay situational buff from a design standpoint, but if it's going to only activate sometimes, it should give 15% or 20%, as Ran Sinclair and Callisto Honglu provide 10% buffs that are much easier to use. But of course, you're never sacrificing Rodion, so it's not like it matters. As for Heathcliff, his future on the House of Spiders exists, but it's not so bright. His on-field capabilities are far outshined by those of Rodion, so he's not in that conversation at all. Instead, he's wrestling for a slot with Capo Merceau and Firefist Gregor. Gregor is here to activate Wrath Resonance and inflict bonus burn count, while capitalizing on stagger turns decently well with his skill 3. And Merceau is basically just Heathcliff, but with a much more achievable ramp up and a far stronger set of ego skills. Against these options, it's hard to justify the placement of Heathcliff, and the reason for that isn't just that he's worse, but actually, part of the reason is the fact that he's genuinely just good when dead. That's right, it's time for us to turn towards Heathcliff's Psyche and his support passive. When killed with Rosho on field, Heathcliff provides her with an effect that allows her to inflict 2 Tremor on Clash Win, and then burst Tremor up to twice per turn, reducing Tremor count by 1 on each burst. And once he's dead, we get access to Heathcliff's support passive, which allows Rodion to inflict 2 Tremor and burn count when winning a clash against a boss. This creates a sort of balance, as when Scorch is up, Roshu's new bursts will eat 2 burn and Tremor count, but as long as you have 3 Wrath Resonance, the passive will replenish the count, effectively creating free Wrath damage out of nowhere. As such, Heath can contribute to the fight while giving his life up, and as an added bonus, you get to instantly achieve Shin on Rodion as well, as she gets the effect when her apprentice dies. Fuck Off is a skill that you will often use early, and this skill gets a lot of value out of Shin, as it goes from 2 burn and tremor to 4, so it's actually pretty cool. Also, speaking of that skill, the one little issue with Heathcliff's support passive is the 3 Wrath Resonance requirement. You can pretty consistently hit 2 with the help of Roshu and Gregor, but hitting 3 can sometimes lead you to using resources on egos that you wouldn't otherwise go for. This could have been mitigated by Fuck Off being a Wrath skill, and it would also put it in line with all the other defenses that mirror the sin of a unit's skill 3. But unfortunately, it's Pride, so trying to keep up the stack and destroying Valencina's eye ASAP often comes with an added cost. All in all, I believe that slotting in Rodion alongside the greats of the House of Spiders is a great idea, and her underling should be killed in cold blood for some extra bonuses. Now, what about Tremor? Well, my goat Rodion is great here as well. Again, she is similar to some Merceau in her performance. Leading up to the nuke turn, you ideally want to get Shin on her. This isn't always possible, but if you can get it, Rodion gets extra speed, allowing her to set up Scorch earlier. This, however, is completely skippable. Scorch setup was already Merceau's niche, but Rodion adds a unique spin on it. Scorch and bonus ego resources. Activating Precognition grants you 1 Gloom resource, and that is incredibly valuable, as Gloom is Tremor's most bottlenecked resource, being required by both of its strongest egos, but not really being produced efficiently by the Identities. On top of that, Rodion can print extra lust. It's not as valuable, but it's still just as free, and everyone loves free. As for her bursts, Rodion is given the standard amount before she gets her skills 2-2 and 3-2. But Tremor is a short fight oriented composition, so we won't be looking at those. One interesting skill that we will be looking at, however, is her skill 1-2. This one can be used in addition to whatever skill you choose, as long as Rodion isn't in overheat. It provides you with an extra burst, and, combined with a skill 3, can actually make Rodion burst 4 times in 1 turn. This, however, is more of a fun fact than a mechanic to pay attention to, as Tremor pretty clearly tries its best to stagger the enemy, and the skill 1-2 can only be activated by the enemy attacking Rodion, which they oftentimes simply won't get to do during the nuke turn. If you've got them in time moratorium and they can't be staggered, it can happen, but that's a bit specific. Overall, Rodion is, again, a better thumb Merceau. She's got the same gimmick as him, but trades a bit of potency infliction on her skills for ego resource generation. As for Heathcliff, he's basically in the same boat, minus the gloom generation. His follow-up is nice for a bit of bonus infliction, and he can get his skills free too by turn 3, allowing him to output some extra damage. Neither unit does anything super game-breaking or new in Tremor, so this part is pretty short. What happened is Thumb Merceau underwent mitosis, and we got these two guys in the archetype now. With this, my review of Thumb Nursefather Rodion and the Thumb Apprentice Heathcliff comes to an end. The long-awaited units are pretty cool, even if Heathcliff is better off dead on the current strongest team in the game. In fact, I'd say that Rodion's kit is one step away from being perfect in my eyes, as I just wish her clashable counter was Wrath instead of Pride. You're gonna be seeing a lot of disposals in the upcoming world records. And Heathcliff, well, he'll be on the screen for at least a couple turns. If you disagree or have something to add, feel free to leave a comment below, and I might read it and respond. If you liked the video at any point, leave a like to let me know, and if you want to see more like this, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!